On the 14th of May 1940, 71 planes were sent out on various sorties. 40 did not return. 8 Fairey battles from 103 Squadron were dispatched from Bétheniville as part of the third wave of attacks. Their afternoon mission was to bomb river crossings and bridges across the river Meuse near Sedan. They encountered fierce flak and fighter opposition. 3 of them were lost. Battle L5446 was shot down by BF-109s during a sortie to attack the bridge at Donchery. The undercarriage sheared off during an attempted forced landing near Bouvellemont in the Ardennes, southwest of Sedan, at approximately 4 p.m. They reported that their aircraft landed in the field next to the aircraft P2191. This placed the crash site much closer to Singly than Bouvellemont. The crew on board this aircraft consisted of my father, Sgt George Beardsley, as pilot, Godfrey Avery, his observer, and leading aircraftman George Lewis, his air gunner. They were shot down and survived the crash landing on the 14th of May. However, all 3 returned to their unit 3 days later, on the 17th of May, having walked some 15 miles from the battle area back to safety. The same crew were then sent back out on the 25th of May. They encountered trouble with the aircraft and Dad had to try and nurse the plane down after the engine eventually failed completely. They again returned to base, this time walking over 25 miles back from enemy lines, returning to the base on the 27th of May. Sent out again for a third time in Fairey Battle N-5253 on the 8th of June, this time to attack advancing German columns after the Dunkirk evacuation. They bombed 4 tanks at crossroads near Amiens, but soon encountered massive flak from below, and unfortunately they were shot down yet again. George performed another belly landing, keeping the crews safe, but luck ran out this time, and they landed right next to the advancing German column, and they were captured and told, "For you the war is over." Within 25 days, the crew had been shot down twice, plus an engine failure, all 3 surviving forced landings 3 times, returning to base twice with 2 and 3 day treks over 15 and 25 miles through the battle area, and returned to flying again soon afterwards, until their capture next to the advancing Germans in their final crash landing on the 8th of June 1940. They saw the squadrons of the Fairey battle completely decimated, and it became known as the Flying Coffin, and yet they had survived 3 crash landings with no injuries on each occasion compared to many of their squadron who were not so lucky. A truly remarkable piece of flying acknowledged by his wing commander to the parents of George Lewis, when recorded as missing in action, that George Beardsley was an expert in landing and returning. Godfrey Avery, the observer, describes the last flight on the 8th of June in the book So Many. In his account called For You the War is Over, on the 14th of May, L5446 flew their first operation, bombing the bridges across the Meuse in Sedan, meant to try and stop a bridgehead developing. The squadron's crews felt strongly that flying in formation was suicidal and voted to attack individually. Godfrey considered himself very lucky to survive. "We were shot down by 2 Messerschmitt 109s. The pilot's windscreen was smashed and the engine hit. Glycol coolant streamed back into his face. He performed a right-hand climbing turn, opened the hood and flew with his head outside to avoid the glycol. He realised he couldn't belly land with live bombs on board, so he pumped the wheels down by hand, and we put down in a clearing in a wood next to the French." The crew: 565475 Sgt George Beardsley, pilot, born 3rd of June 1915 in Manchester. In 1927, his parents moved to 230 East Wall Road, Dublin 6, Ireland, which he quoted on his prisoner of war release interview as his home address. He enlisted in the RAF in 1931 straight from school. He became an aircraft fitter in 1934, moving to pilot in 1938. In 1947, he got married in Kent to his wife, who was in the WRAF. He spent 39 years in the forces until retirement in 1970 and died in December 2003. 518279 Sgt Godfrey Avery, Observer, born 3rd of February 1912, enlisted on the 25th of October 1934, attempted escape while a prisoner of war and died in 2001. He and George remained lifelong friends. He even named his daughter Georgina in honour of his pilot who kept him safe following their forced landings and capture in June 1940. Avery died in 2001. 533360 Leading Aircraftman George Frederick Lewis, wireless operator and air gunner, returned unhurt. Born 27th of August 1915, a builder by trade before joining the RAF on the 16th of July 1936. Lewis was awarded the DFM for shooting down a Bf-109. He made 3 attempts to escape whilst a prisoner of war. He married in 1945 and died on the 5th of June 2004.